Together with Robert Kiyosaki, we initiated a program named Millennial Money, focusing on educating young individuals about essential financial tools and strategies.
Tell me 3 steps so they can start conquering their dream.
First, discover your talent, invest in your talent and education. Second, get your first 10 clients.
Third,
Reinvest that money.
so you can grow exponentially.
Keep your friends you still love, but also focus on nurturing relationships, on being part of circles like mentoring events, where you will make connections you don't yet know. They might be your mentors and part of your team later.
Create your network. What can you say to someone who is afraid to fail?
If you are afraid to fail, you are going to fail because you are not launching yourself. You are not learning, you are not growing. If you're not growing, you're dying. If you want to find your purpose, follow your mentors. Eliminate all kinds of distractions on social media, people who don't contribute to you. Follow people who inspire you. Seek out the geniuses on those platforms and let them fill your thoughts.
Welcome to one more episode of Rich Dad Latino, where the money works for you. Today, we're going to touch on a very important topic, which is how young people can evolve applying the Rich Dad principles. I have as my guest Alexandra Gonzalez, my daughter, who was born when I was starting to attend the trainings with Robert Kiyosaki. Hi Alexandra, how are you?
Hi, Dad. So I'm in the living room with you, just like I always am.
And well, it's 28 years that I've been under the culture, under the training with Robert Kiyosaki, who I see every week until today. And you were born precisely at the very moment when your mother had given me the book and I was starting that journey that I never imagined, I must say. It all started because Cecilia gave me the book. And the book, a book I normally read in 3 years.
Well, I never saw you reading a book before.
And a book I would read maybe in 3 years, if I finished it at all, because I usually put it down. But that book, I devoured it in 5 days. On the 6th day, I was giving it the second lap. And at that time, there was no internet. And I got an invitation that cost $5,000 to an event with Robert Kiyosaki in Phoenix, Arizona. I attended that event not knowing that it would change my life completely. That's why it's so important to go to events of self-education, the one that one chooses, to be able to transform one's life. How did this education influence in you, Alexandra?
Well, first of all, yes, I remember perfectly the moment I saw you reading the book. Then you kind of disappeared because you were going to these Robert Kiyosaki events, and you would arrive and teach me with the blackboard on your desk. I would come home from school, and with your blackboard, you would teach me the concepts that you had taught, that several times the graphs were taught in the episodes that we have together on family finances. And I began to see the world in a different way. I remember when I was a little girl, and they used to tell me, okay, now choose, what do you want to be? Doctor, do you want to be a lawyer, a teacher? And I would say, no, I want to be a real estate investor. I want to own my own business. I want to start a business of what I wanted at that time, which was bracelets. So from there, my teachers told me, no, you have to choose a profession. And I said, of course. My dad taught me that I can make money this way. So from the time I was very young, I learned something that many people didn't know back then, which was to be able to exchange my services, products, talents for money instead of my time for money. And that also opened doors and gave me another way of looking at life and opportunities. And quite apart from the education that it gave me, thanks to that also to the relationship that you have with Kiyosaki, we launched a Millennial Money program together, Robert Kiyosaki and myself, where it's a program where I've dedicated to young people to teach these tools of financial education.
But you're way ahead of me, because I remember you were in college and you didn't look very happy, weren't you? And in one of those, you'll remind me what year it was? I think it was 2009, when I said to you, do you want to go to the event in Santiago de Chile with me? And you, as long as you didn't go to the university, you told me, yes, Daddy, I'll go with you, remember?
Yes, I remember back then.
What year was it? Do you remember or
No,
not?
I don't remember, but I remember that I was even working at the bank in a corporate job, which I liked. I had very nice colleagues, and at the university I was struggling. I was struggling because I wasn't seeing what you were teaching me at home, and it wasn't my passion. And it was not my passion. It was pure theory. I wasn't doing well because I'm not like that to memorize things. I like to understand them and apply them. And I would say, well, I want to have a business, for example, social networks, which I love, and they didn't teach you that. So I was at a point where I was kind of depressed and lost because I was saying, I mean, all this effort I'm putting into my work at the bank, to the work that is that I am doing at the university, what's the point if I am not enjoying myself and I don't see my future that way either? So, and I also saw many friends who said that I don't like what I am studying. I don't like what I am studying. I really don't want this career. And I also thought that in the long run, okay, then my life is going to be dedicated to work for money. Working for money and nothing else. I mean, and get home and that's it. I mean, that's it. And no, things didn't fit in there.
Especially that your spirit was not connected with the student at that time, with the
Yes.
subjects you were taking or memorizing things.
Well, school is structured for a certain type of person, a young person of a certain category, and the school itself is very old. That is to say, they don't teach what it is to be an influencer today, which makes you too much money. The textbooks, the books we are given, do not apply the tools we learn in Rich Dad. They do not teach you how to invest, what taxes are. Then there is, as we say in
Or
English,
how to manage your money.
very outdated, how to manage your money. So, I mean, I was lost there. And I was like, well, this is not the path I want to take.
Of course. And I remember when we went to the event in Santiago de Chile, I saw how you arrived. I saw how your energy went up and how you loved to be able to be present, to see the entrepreneurs, to see that there was a way of life that somehow you knew from me. But this time you were there.
Of course, because in this event, as you always teach us and teach us in your mentoring with graphics, with drawings, that is really, and as Kiyosaki has his book, and as you mentioned in your book, From Fear of Freedom, one can be a C student and be successful. I mean, the book is called Why a Students Work for C Students. Why do A students work for the business owners who are the C students? Because we have a different personality type. So I saw there, wow, I mean, it's possible that I could be successful and very successful in this world. I like graphics, I like drawing, I like creativity, art, in events, for example. I know that, I mean, obviously my parents came as migrants. They put me in the traditional school. They wanted me to learn English. And I thank them a lot for that opportunity. And also, at the same time, I suffered a little bit because they sent you notes every day that I was punished because they told I was punished because I talked a lot, because I wanted to sell bracelets at school. I wanted to sell my chocolate. And the teachers would send me home, or they would send a note to you, or they would call you. And there were several appointments with my teachers. So that also made me feel insecure about who I was. And at these events, I saw, wow, no, I mean, the fact that I like to talk and connect with people and sell, I mean, all these millionaires that are here, the successful people, they have those skills. So I'm doing something right. And that's when the spotlight and the light came on, and I realized, wow, that's what Robert Kiyosaki is doing. That's what my dad is doing, working for assets that earn you income, that generate passive income, that you don't have to be a slave. That is what I want. So that changed my life completely. And that's when I started to make totally different decisions than my friends.
But after that, I remember you really enjoyed, you made a connection with Robert Kiyosaki, with Tom Wheelwright naturally. And then we went to Spain. 2 years later, we went to Spain. And there Robert Kiyosaki made you a proposal. Share that with us.
Well, that's funny because I went to this event. I left everything, the insurance, my job, the university, and everybody was telling me, what are you doing? I mean, you're doing great at the bank. You can have a long-term career there. And I had the best sales there too, but I said, no, I have to go to this event and I want to help my dad in marketing and I want to be part of this world. And because of the effort that I had and because of the same skills that I was being punished in school, at this event they blossomed. And all these people saw that I had potential, which I never felt in school. So my abilities to talk a lot or to connect with people or to sell ended up giving me and opening doors and opportunities with, I remember at the same time Kiyosaki offered me the job, well,
He
an
offered
internship.
you. Tell that. He offered you. He introduced
Him.
himself to you.
He sat me down with me and he said, you have something very special. I want you to come work at the company. And he gave me an opportunity. And right then and
To
there,
start, I was just an intern for a while.
yes, as an intern. But the funny thing is that I also got about 5 other job offers. And, well, what we have always taught and what I always tell people who are starting out, young people, is don't work for a salary. In other words, don't go for the job that pays you the most. I had very good offers here in marketing where I was going to make triple the money, but I knew that where Kiyosaki is, Ken McElroy, my dad, all his financial education advisors there, I wasn't going to make as much at the time, but I was going to make an investment in my education that was going to give me the return that I wanted in my life, which was freedom, which was to generate money without having to being there full time 24/7 at that time. I started as an intern, and I remember arriving at the company where many seem to think that, well, Kiyosaki brought her, we have to kind of Fernando's little daughter. I said, no, I mean, no way they're going to see me like that. I'm going to stand up for myself. And I remember that in a few months, I did what many had not been able to do, which was to monetize all the social networks. And thanks to me, they have been able to build more. There are months where there are $100,000, for example, from just one network. And it's not even, and that comes directly from the network. It's not even from the books that have been sold, from the mentoring that has been sold, from all the other things. And based on that, which here I'm also throwing myself a little bit, but based on what? Thanks to investing my time in learning and not for a salary, those talents I turned into one of my first businesses. Well, one of
Sure.
several first businesses that I had.
Sure, but here's something very important, Alexandra, because I know that several of the people who are watching you suddenly are not happy with the career they have studied. And of course, we are not against traditional education. It is a base, but it's not going to give you happiness, isn't it? Or rather, it is not going to give you success in your entrepreneurship. That is only a base. Beyond that base is self-education, the one you choose. In my case, for example, I was afraid of being a failure. I was afraid of being mediocre. When I came to live in the United States, I had a logistics company, and here there are companies like Federal Express, UPS, DHL. I said I am nothing compared to these monsters. So that's where I went to train with Tony Robbins, to learn how to dance with fear, to learn to dance with fear, because fear is a natural instinct. But if you don't know how to control it, it paralyzes you and you become small. And just like him, after some time, I chose Robert Kiyosaki to be my business mentor. So, that struggle that you had, especially finding happiness, because you can suddenly make a lot of money in something that you don't like, and then you feel empty. How was that process in your case?
And I think that's kind of the $1,000,000 question. There are thousands of books on this, podcasts anyway, because a lot of people say, but Alexandra, how do I discover my talent, my passion, my life purpose? And I tell them, I mean, just throw yourself into the unknown. Me, something I always tell my boyfriend Roberto, is like if I'm in my comfort zone, I'm the unhappiest person in the world because I don't feel like I'm growing. I don't feel like I'm adding to my life or to the lives of others. And I think it's also kind of selfish to add to other people's lives because it feels good. And in the midst of, for example, if I would have been afraid to fail at work with Kiyosaki, that he would scold me, that he would tell me everything, that I wouldn't get ahead, that I wouldn't be
You
able
left
to
home at
monetize
the
the
age of
networks.
22.
Yes, 19.
19.
I was 19 years old. So, if I had been afraid of that, forget about it. I wouldn't have found my passion, which was, finding that I could generate money through social media and through my own business. But before all that, there are stories of the network marketing that I joined, which didn't do very well. The deli business, which did do well at the time, but I was a slave. In my bracelet business, I lost money at a very young age. So there are many pains that come before that, but thanks to those pains, I found my life purpose, which is to be here with you, which is to transmit financial education, which is to be in the social networks so that companies and this financial education reaches the world. So, and being on the podcast, I like
There you feel that you give life to your talent. You feel like your spirit is connecting with what you're doing versus following like the herd, looking for a secure job, doing something you don't like so you can have money and survive.
And that, day by day, I'm still dancing with fear. Obviously, sometimes the podcast, that something goes wrong, that the message that you want to transmit is not transmitted, that people on social networks feel very brave writing and telling you, pure criticism. Entering this space is difficult, but the satisfaction that it gives you is much greater. So what I would say to those young people is, throw absolutely everything at it. Become a chef that is obviously focused. Don't throw yourself into anything that wastes your time. Because every time you say yes to something, you're saying no to something else. So throw yourself into everything. And there in that moment, you're going to discover what you're passionate about.
In this whole process, in what you choose, in what you are going to do, you have said something important. For example, you go on social networks and they can tell you anything. And if you want to please everyone, what happens?
I do not comply with myself.
You lose your identity.
And you die of fear and you stay locked in a room.
So, what people will say is one of the things that affect human beings the most. Because many times you do to please them, and you end up living someone else's life when you don't really follow your talent or your passion. Or you also know that there will be people who don't agree with you.
Something that I always repeat to myself is the less you want to do it, the more you have to do it. That's when you have to do it the most. Because you also give your brain another rewiring, and you prove to yourself that you can do it. So the first few times I didn't want to get up on stage and speak in front of 5,000 people, that's when I had to do it the most. They know. Or the mornings when I least want to go to the gym, those are the times I have to do it the most to form that discipline in my life.
Who do you have to ask for permission to live your talent?
Well, I mean, technically no one. I offer it to God. Because that too, I mean, you've always taught me what God's purpose is for you in your life, and my grandmother always told me, you have a gift, you have a gift. So basically, I always make sure that I'm aligned with the purpose that God has for me in this life. Because I don't want to be selfish and not contribute to the world. I want to, make a difference in your life after all that you've done for me in a stranger's life, in my friends' lives. Now, on the other hand, I always ask you guys for permission and advice because you're my parents. And my boyfriend, I think he knows me more than I know myself. So he also guides me and tells me, no, look, focus on this area because I also like to please other people. And he doesn't want me, by pleasing others, to also lose my essence, right?
Right.
So you have to have your advisors who really know the path and the purpose that you have for your life.
Now, there's an important part because some will want to pursue a traditional career. You can be a doctor, you can be a nurse, you can be a chef, whatever you want, or be part of the corporate career as well. I think the important thing, Alexandra, is not to depend on a single source of income. I mean, if you are an employee, for example, learn to invest. That way, the day that by chance you don't have a job, your income will keep flowing. Your income will continue to flow. One of the lessons of the pandemic was not to depend on one income because expenses continue. So one has to have multiple sources of income.
Something that is also important is, for example, to diversify your intelligence, not your ignorance, as you have always taught me. So, of course, as your book also explains, from fear to freedom, is that for example, I have been able to make all the decisions in my life based on freedom. Because thanks to my rich father, I'm a free daughter. I've had these concepts, so I've never depended on just one source. I mean, if anything, well, I don't have a job anymore, but because I have my business.
Especially what you're saying is very valuable for young people, Alexandra. Give me a decision. Give me an example of making a decision from fear and then from freedom.
Then the fear would have been that I would have stayed at the bank job without going to the event, without missing college.
Because it was a safe job.
Because it was a safe job. And go down that corporate road where I wouldn't have had to take a lot of risks. But I took the risk of going to an event, of changing my life, of applying the principles and say, like, you know what? I'm not going to rely on just a paycheck. I'm going to invest in real estate. I'm going to invest in the stock market. I'm going to invest in my education, in my business. And because of that, I've always been able to make a decision of freedom. I have been able to go back to live in Miami, which was what I loved the most. I mean, I loved it, not in Arizona. In short, to make decisions based on freedom. Because also thanks to my income, I can choose where I want to be, who I want to be with, who I want to share my time with, and where I want to focus my mistakes.
Do you believe in yourself?
Yes, 100%, but it took me time to get there.
Sure.
I mean, before, I didn't believe in myself because I was also in my comfort zone. and I was surrounded by knowledge that didn't apply to my life. So also, if you think that a career is for you, that's fine, that's great, but diversify your income. For me, that was not my environment. So it didn't bring me energy, happiness, and now I do believe in myself because I threw myself into everything. I know I did everything, even cheese. And now, well, I know very well what my talents are, my knowledge. And those I don't know, I don't have to be the smartest person. That's why we have a team.
There is one very important thing to mention here, that your talent, you have been able to find it because you've been training. If you didn't train, you didn't know what your talent was. If you followed a career that wasn't for you, you didn't know what your talent was. So it has taken you effort to know yourself.
And also to build my freedom. I know, I don't make decisions without thinking about them. I don't buy a car or start such and such business or invest such and such without knowing it, because that is also where your self-esteem is lowered, isn't it? Just because there's someone. What's the question that keeps coming up? I have 10 grand, where do I invest? No. Be proud, educate yourself on what you're going to invest in, get the passion behind any investment, even if it's real estate,
You
commodities.
have to enjoy the process.
Enjoy the process. So now I see houses, I see properties, and I feel happy because I know what I am getting into. I see my business and I feel happy because I know I am adding value. And I am really, I have built the life of my dreams.
Now there's a contrast there, Alexandra, that it is important to make it visible. Among your friends, there are several who do not have financial education, who only have traditional education. How do you compare? Comparisons are said to be hateful, but how do you see that difference between a person who has this type of education versus purely traditional?
And now I have a very different circle of friends. One that follows the traditional way, they have a steady job. And I also have another circle of friends that is full of businessmen, entrepreneurs, investors, right? Where I speak with them and every minute counts. For example, yesterday I got a call from one of them, a former owner of a very famous liquor then, and he was giving me literally 5 minutes with him. It was like a 3-year school. And he gave me several tips about his finances, about properties, about the economy. So, me and my circle of friends, because your time is the most valuable thing you have, I admire all of them. It doesn't matter what group they are in, if they have their corporate job, or if they are on the other side. All my friends that I surround myself with add value to me, and I appreciate them in their own talents. But I can say that I fit more spiritually with my friends who are focused on entrepreneurship. The type of conversations we have are very different. Their goals. We're having fun, we're going to dinner, we're going to have a little wine, but we're educating ourselves. Look, I had this happen the other day with a client. I've implemented these new systems. That's what I'm investing in. Your quality of conversation, really, that's vastly different. So if I would give you one piece of advice, is to keep your friends that you still love, but also focus on nurturing relationships, on being part of circles, like mentoring events, where you're going to build relationships, where you don't know. Tomorrow you could be your mentor, part of your team.
Create your network.
Create your network. And well, as I say, I admire my friends anyway. And everybody has their talent of.
Now, when you talk about all this process of entrepreneurship, do you need a lot of money to be able to make that a reality?
No, it is essential to invest in your education and your mental development. Your mind is the key to achieving wealth.
How much have I given you for your project?
No, you have given me pure education. And it makes me laugh because the other day we were recording finances in the family. And you talks until the end like, oh, well, I'm not going to leave you a penny, right? And I think the legacy, the greatest legacy is that you have given us education. Obviously I admire the effort you have made, but you have also seen that I have built my own life. And I don't depend on, oh, Dad, please transfer me the money now. I don't depend on that. I depend on the education you have given me and the income that gives me, because I have been able to apply those principles. But I'm not depending on a check that you give me a monthly allowance.
And in addition to what you've talked about other young people who choose their path, for example, you also see in our family how to manage asset creation, entrepreneurship. What do you think about that?
Well, the nice thing is that thanks to the game cash flow, it's online now. You can play it at richdadlatino.com, right? That game is too powerful. And as a family, we have found a way to work together as a team. And everyone has found their talents. And I now know that, for example, my boyfriend, when it comes to certain businesses, or my mom, when it comes to real estate, he has his personality, right? So in the game, you see these personalities and you find the way to work as a team and as a family. So thanks to that, we have also formed a team. And I think that in a way accelerates a lot and gives speed to our path, our money, our entrepreneurship, because we are in a family. I mean, the breakfast, we are not a normal family. I imagine that when we go to a restaurant, people will say, these what? They are partners because we always talk about the business. We always talk about investments, about what is happening in such and such property, about what is happening in my business in a very funny way. As I told you, because we enjoy what we do. But always, I mean, it is already part of our language, of our reality and our environment.
And you who are a part of this modern economy where there is the emergence of artificial intelligence in the implementation with social networks, etc., because everything is changing at great speed. Do you consider that there are opportunities for young people?
Absolutely. I mean, I think that obviously, as we have just said, the university gives you the basis, but you can't depend on the fact that, oh, university, I'm going to go out and have the life I want. I mean, you have to be the owner of your life and your finances. So I didn't really apply much of what I learned in college. Rather, coming out of college or during college, I took a course on social networks, and that's where I took off. And that's when I formed my company. And now that's what I offer to clients. So what I suggest for many young people is invest in a course, get your certificate, or become an expert in that. And apply it and sell it to 5 people and see how you can find a way to give them a system so you can offer it to 10 more.
All right. And for example, within this whole walk in life, of all this undertaking, of all this separation that you had with your family at the age of 19, have you made mistakes?
Errors? Many. A lot, like you say. Actually, they're not even mistakes. I mean, they're learnings.
They are learning.
Every mistake to me is worth gold. It has saved me from bigger mistakes. So every time there is a problem, I get excited because I say, well, what is going to be the learning? What is going to be the lesson? Am I going to grow? What is going to be the solution? I mean, you have to face these mistakes with that mentality. Because if you don't shut down and you get smaller and the mistake becomes your own, you have to look at it and say, wow, what a thrill. There's a mistake. What am I going to learn?
What can you say to the one who is afraid to fail? Student A wants to have all the answers, but he doesn't know how to do the business.
If you're afraid to fail, you're going to fail. Because if you avoid everything, your life is over, right? It's going to be a failure because you're not launching yourself. You are not learning, you are not growing. If you're not growing, you are dying. So you have to launch yourself. And the more mistakes you make, you move on to the next one. You fail forward. So you fail, but with 1 foot forward.
You keep evolving.
She
What
keeps
happens
evolving.
when Alexandra falls, gets hit, makes a mistake?
She gets stronger. I mean, every mistake has prepared me for that problem, for that failure. And I keep going and going and going. And it's exciting because you get to know yourself more. And you learn that, wow, I had all the skills to solve something that I didn't know I had.
For those who are watching you, Alexandra, especially the young people, tell me 3 steps so they can start conquering their dream.
And number 1, invest in some courses. Invest in your education. Find your talent. I mean, if you think I like a little bit of social media, or I like making charcuterie boards, or I like art, invest in courses where there are people who have those businesses.
Practical, straightforward things.
And practical. After that, apply it. I mean, sell it to 10 people. If you can sell it to 10 people, find the system to implement so you can get your other 20 customers. And then, after that, I would take that cash flow from my businesses or investments, and I would reinvest it again, because that's where you give speed to your money, and you won't be stuck in a rat race anymore, without money, without cash, in debt.
That's where you're growing exponentially.
Exponentially. So, I mean, sure, I could be a normal person like most people who, oh, look, I have so much money left over. 10% in savings and the rest I'm going to spend on purses and trips. No, I take that money and obviously I do treat myself instead of when, because that's what life is for. You have to enjoy it. But I also take it and I have my rule and my percentage that I am going to save for my next investments, my business, my clients, and that way that money becomes money without me having to be there.
In other words, the 3 steps are: first,
First is find your talent, invest in your talent and education.
okay, second,
Second, get your first 10 clients. Third one, reinvest that money
so that you can grow exponentially.
because that money is going to be like a snowball effect.
A snowball.
It's going to keep growing like that. And you're just going to keep putting money in, keep putting money in.
All right, Alexandra, we're getting to the final part. Very happy to hear all your teachings that you have shared with us. I learned too, of course. And above all, to know how to serve. I know that there are many people who may be going through a difficult situation, like, for example, having studied a career and not knowing what to do because they don't want to continue with it. So you should not burden with that cross all your life. And what you have studied, in any case, will be useful to you. At the least expected moment, you will say, I was happy to have this foundation. In other words, it is not time wasted.
You have to find how those failures, those pains can serve you.
Learnings.
Those learnings, because don't feel like that. In other words, find a way how that can add value to your life. And if there's one thing, is that all the success stories that we know, the millionaire people, the rich people that come in abundance, they have thousands of problems in their life, and it's their grief is the reason why they are a legacy. The grief of Robert Kiyosaki, of Tony Robbins, of Alejandro Cardona, of Fernando Gonzalez is the reason why you were able to write a book, why you were able to get ahead as a migrant. It is what gives you the credibility to teach thousands of students all over the world that you can, because if Fernando achieved this after all this, you can too. You can do it too. You went from $150 a month. You could have
To
stayed
150 a minute.
exactly or more. And you might have been left with that feeling of, oh, I win $150. Sorry, I meant pain when I said grief. So just so you know, I'm Peruvian but grew up in the US. Spanglish is spoken over there. It originates from Miami. But, well, so then all those stories really, they add to your life, and it all depends on what you do with that pain.
Of course, very well. I mean, with the lemon, you make lemonade. And what you are doing in these moments of your life, are you using your talent?
Yes, right now, more than ever, I am using my talent. I'm focused on my business, on my clients, like you, with social networks, on being on this podcast, and teaching young people the principles of financial education. Look, I recently bought my car, but with a different mindset now, and it's my dream car. I remember going to work and I imagined the Porsche logo on my car every day when I drove because it was my dream car. And I would say, one day I'm going to make it. I mean, I'm going to increase my income and I'm going to make it. And now, thanks to my company, I was able to buy that car. My assets pay my liabilities, and I love what I am doing. Now with my boyfriend, I love him. We build a life together, enjoy life, and have fun as partners as we start a new business and work together. My creativity is now at 1,000,000. He also challenges me. So, I am out of my comfort zone. And I'm really living the purpose that God has for me in my life. I'm seeing properties. I'm helping more people. So, and for me, that's what it is. I mean, I love to serve and help. And if I have more time, I also have more time to serve.
I think that's something it's a pillar of a relationship. It's admiration for your partner. So, I see how you admire Roberto, and I see how Roberto admires you, and how you together are building your empire
Well,
and enjoying the process.
that's also thanks to you, Dad, because I've always been able to admire you since I was little. And I always said, wow, the only thing I want in this life before I met Roberto was, the only thing I want is to admire my partner. The only thing, it was like, not the only thing, obviously, but I had 5 pillars written down, and that was one of them. Admire his vision, his creativity, his discipline. And that was the number one thing that stood out to me about Roberto, that I said, wow, that's him. And I think, yeah, for everyone watching, if you don't have a partner yet, write down your 5 non-negotiables on what you would want in your partner. Because for an entrepreneur, that's super important.
But here comes something very elemental in a relationship. There are several people who say, yes, but my partner has no interest in this.
Well, it really depends on the situation, because obviously, if they are not married yet, they are looking for a way to be on the same
If
page.
they're not married yet, it's time to find another partner.
A little bit. Because, if they're not willing to grow with you, You're going to be here. They're going to be here.
Exactly.
You're going to feel like it's
That's a
pulling
reality.
them.
That's a reality.
You're going to feel resentment. You're going to fight. I mean, it's nice to feel that they support each other. They
Of
understand the
course.
same mentality, the same language, because, you know?
Go together, for example.
Yes.
When there is a Porsche event, you accompany
Yes.
Roberto and go with him to the event.
That's what I tell you. I mean, our undertakings, I think it's one of the nicest things in our relationship. And it's not to say that you can't have other hobbies than your partner. I mean, obviously, it's good to have also, I have my little things that I like to do, and so does he. But I mean, the central part of something.
Roberto was at the financial education event with his
Yes.
family.
Yes. So it is important that they are aligned on that path because you are developing personally and your partner is developing personally. You develop personally, and your partner has to be at the same level.
Very good, Alexandra. Thank you very much for sharing, friends. You have had her here, Alexandra. She is a young entrepreneur. She works with me. I assure you she doesn't have a paycheck. She's helping me build assets.
We've
We have
negotiated.
negotiated. And he's helping me build a great asset.
Yes.
So final words.
Well, final words to all the young people. Really, if you want to find your purpose, be part of a channel like that, follow your mentors, eliminate all kinds of distractions on social media, the people that don't bring you in, people that only upload pure entertainment, only follow people that nurture your mentality. So nowadays, there is a lot of distraction. Eliminate that. And what is distraction? Catch all the geniuses from those networks and let that fill your mind. So here are my last tips, and thanks a lot for having me here.
Thank you, my pleasure. Folks, that's it for today. I think there are valuable lessons, both for parents who need to guide our children, as well as for our children who have to live their dream. But it's not a matter of not liking to study. It's a matter of them doing something with their talent, discovering it, making an effort. Because there is nothing like being free. And that, as they say, wayfarer, there is no way. The path is made by walking. Catch you in the next chapter of Rich Dad Latino, where your money is put to work for you.
This podcast is a presentation of Rich Dad Media Network.